Welcome to FinOps in Action. I'm your host, Alon Arvatz. Each week, I'll sit down with FinOps experts to explore the toughest challenges between FinOps and engineering. This show is brought to you by Point 5, empowering teams to optimize cloud costs with deep detection and remediation tools that drive action. Hello, everyone. Today we have a very special guest, actually one of the first FinOps leaders I met when I got into the FinOps space. He actually started as a chemical engineer, but quickly moved to IT, and he is there for the last 23 years. On his previous role, he implemented cloud cost management framework that has saved millions of dollars on Azure. Today, he's a consultant helping companies maximize the business value they get out of their cloud investments. I'm happy to introduce you to founder and FinOps consultant at Zephyr Globe, Anderson Oliveira. Anderson, how are you today?
I'm just fine, thank you.
That's great. So Anderson, please share with us, what should be the FinOps practitioner's top priority?
FinOps practitioners' top priority, in my opinion, is maximize business value out of every dollar spent on cloud investment.
That's great. Can you please break it down for us? I think like the average person there would say that maybe it's saving money, maybe it's working with engineers to improve the way they work on the infrastructure. What does maximizing business value mean?
Yeah, I totally understand that in the sense that when you hear that for the first time, we automatically associate value to dollars and dollars to value. And it's not basically wrong. When you have a big cloud implementation, the first thing that you want to do is to save as much as you can because cloud is not cheap, right? So this is what the FinOps material tells us that on the beginning, everything looks like a low-hanging fruit. It's like the Pareto rule. Have you heard about that? It's the 80-20 rule. So in the beginning, 20% of your effort helps you do 80% of savings. It's very easy. Everybody's happy, lots of money saved. But after that, seems like 80% of your effort goes to save just 20% of the cost. So, of course, this numbers is just for illustration. It's to say that as you move on your cloud journey, it's going to be harder and harder to get savings. So, if the value is associated to money, then you gives that sensation that you're not adding too much value in quotes, but actually you need to make the switch that value is not necessarily money or revenue, but it relates to what the cloud investment will do for your business to leverage the business objectives and the strategies that were put in place. And that is where things becomes more interesting. On the other hand, becomes a little bit more complex to understand and to do.
So let's take it step by step. First of all, I'm a new FinOps leader in a company that just starts their FinOps journey. Would you still recommend to start with the low-hanging fruit and focus on cost savings in the beginning or not?
I would say yes. I would say yes. The low hanging fruits are cost savings. They are a result of an optimization most of the time. So when you optimize here, you optimize there, the optimization translates to less money spent. At the same time that you keep other features that you want, like security, like performance, reliability. If you keep them as you expect, there are different ways to do the same thing, get the same result, but spending less. Those would be the low hanging fruits. For example, commitments could be another way for you to save lots of money with a few clicks. All right. So for someone starting, that would be, let's say, the low hanging fruits that they could be harvesting.
Understood. And then you suggested gradually you will move to measuring business value instead of cost saving.
So let's say if you have because I don't want you to be a purist in here. I know that startups people just want to move fast and deliver the product and start having revenue. I get that. But let's say that you are not that in a rush. If you can start by putting together the business value that you're looking for, all right, you are able to do both. You can do the low hanging fruit because on the beginning, probably you left behind some technical debt, and you made a conscious decision for that. So you do your thing, you still get revenue, but you will have your target set up. Okay, I'm looking for this value, and that's the reason why I'm doing this investment on the cloud. All right. Now, on the other hand, I'm seeing others that have done kind of lift and shift or move to data modernization, and then they forget to take into consideration, for example, the business value, connection with procurement and finance, so that that cost flow can run smoothly. All right, that's where, for example, I would highly recommend to consider the business value when you're doing, this move to the cloud modernization. Don't take for granted the financial aspects of this cloud movement.
Understood. And let's talk for a second about showing your value as a Finos practitioners to the organization. So I think when about cost savings, it's very easy, right? I save the company millions of dollars. You pay me, my tools, my program, X% of that. We're good. Let's continue. I also saw many practitioners that this is how they justified and funded the program. They told them, hey, we're going to save X. So please fund us with headcount and with tools to make it happen. How do you show the value of the FinOps program to the management or to the organization when you do the transition to the business value?
I think that this strategy is a dangerous move.
Okay.
It's a very dangerous move because as soon as you stop providing the millions of dollars of savings, and because you sell that your value are related to savings, then maybe you will not have enough to justify the investment on a FinOps team on the second year or on the third year. So it's a dangerous move. I would, let's say, justify that by saying, okay, tell them the whole story. The first year, we're probably going to have lots of savings, but because we will be running our infrastructure so tight, we need to continue investing to keep the savings and the benefits that we harvested in the first year. All right. And throughout this period, if not on the beginning, start with the business value that, in my opinion, is best translated through the unit economics. In that beginning, work with the management and senior leaders to start displaying to them reports showing the business value through unit economics. That was one of my strategies. Okay, I started displaying the data to them, and the best way is to be transparent. Put the data in there, and I put a box there using the CPI, the cost performance indicator, showing how we are going compare to the value. And that company, it was easy to determine what was the value that you're looking for. So it was just a matter of measuring that value. In that case, was number of orders, let's say, and then compared to the cost, and was putting in there. So while we were reviewing with senior leaders, they were saying, "Oh, I see a cost increase," and then I say, but that our unit economics went down, which is good." Right? And then you start educate them with real time information and with real case, with real numbers, what business value means. And so they said, "Oh, okay, so what this means that I'm getting more revenue, I'm getting more orders, I'm getting more users as the costs go up, and then what that goes down, and they start figuring that out. Okay, and then when they're used to this, you start including on your budgeting process the idea of not only estimating how much we're going to be spending on the next year, but what is how much you foresee your number of orders increasing, your revenue is increasing, the values that that business is looking for. Okay, so uh, that's pretty much how I would approach that, so that you can keep the investments on a FinOps team for a longer term.
That's fascinating. And actually, unit economics is a topic for itself that we'll have to break down. I want to ask about the different aspect of business value, which is around cloud waste. So obviously, waste is part of your cloud spend that you gain no value out of it. So besides unit economic, do you see part of measuring or managing business value in monitoring waste and cleaning up waste?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that as any process, if you think on industry, or even if you think you're at the kitchen making a good meal, they're going always have we will always have waste. All right, we just need to clean it up, and we just need to make sure that we have the best tools to reduce the waste. So I don't want to waste half of the inputs just to have the output that I'm looking for. Maybe there are ways to do the same thing, but I believe that there is some point on your optimization that you simply need to accept that some waste will be there. Okay, so as long as the difference between the investment and the return is positive, uh, um, the path that you go towards that is, I would call that optimization. You start optimizing in a site and in a virtual cycle that improves itself.
So Anderson, you made me hungry with the food analogy. Uh, and I really hope to eat your food one day. And we talked about the maturity process, moving from cost savings to business value. Do you see also a maturity process when it comes to waste elimination or usage optimization? So moving from low-hanging fruit to something that is more mature. How do you see that happening?
Yes, I think that you need, while you're removing waste, the FinOps practitioner needs to keep another eye on what is the process that you need to put in place to keep this evergreen. All right, so that it 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 is not just a one-time effort, or you get a SWAT team, just to do optimization and then you're done. I'm all to it. I think that sometimes you need to do that, but you need to be looking ahead, maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead. So, how do you make this a process? How do you make this an operation? This is the part of ops, of FinOps. How to put this into operations so that the team has a recurring way to automatically, or to recurringly look to their own workloads and find ways to make it better. Waste is one way to simply see what you could be removing, and just to spend exactly what your workload needs. But then it doesn't stop there. You need maybe to look into your code to see if you're able to do less calls, if you can store a little bit less, if your code can be a little bit more performant. And if you don't have an internal process that allows you to constantly check that, um, it will stop on that first initiative. And that's what we don't want. So my take is like, okay, I'm all into go and do one-time effort to remove waste, but let's keep doing that. It's just like if you move to a new house and you have a task force to clean it up, and then you're done. You're not cleaning that anymore. All right. The second and the third cleaning, or maybe on the second month you're in that house, definitely the efforts to clean will not that be that much, but you still need to continue cleaning it. All right. So in an infrastructure, FinOps perspective, I think it would be the same.
Yes, and my mom and my wife would definitely agree with you. We are planning the house.
I'm trying to teach this FinOps principle to my kids, but I'm failing, spectacularly.
Exactly. And let's move from talking about kids to talking about engineering,
Right, right.
which is also challenging in different ways.
In different ways.
What you said, I have to say, resonates very well with me. When I used to work at Rapid 7, we used to have a costathons, which is exactly like the SWAT teams that you described, coming, cleaning up the low-hanging fruit, and then leaving it until next time. And back then, we tried to start in building the process you're talking about. And I wonder, what is the FinOps role in creating this process? Because some people would say, hey, that's the engineering responsibility. And I would say that they are probably right. Like it should be engineering responsibility. But where does the FinOps person fit in?
So this is a very good question. In my opinion, it all starts with the budgeting process, engineering, doing the estimate, FinOps practitioner doing the middle man between engineering and finance, then agreeing the budgeting and getting approval from senior leaders. Then the another year cycle starts, and the teams keep an eye on their consumption based on the estimate approved on the budget. And then you keep track of the budget throughout the time in a daily basis, because now with tools and processes, we are pretty much able to do that. And and that's it. And then you start just tracking your consumption against your budget. Because I want to also be, not because I am a FinOps guy that I just have a mindset of let's reduce, let's reduce, let's reduce. All right. Because engineers has other stuff to do. They have new features. They have to ensure the security and reliability of their systems. They need to respond to bugs and fixes, and they still need to keep an eye on cost. There are lots of things there. They just have 8 hours or 24 hours in some cases, right? So we cannot think that FinOps is just the only one thing that they should be focusing, because there are many other things that's going on in that realm, and we need to respect that. So the borderline or the limit that the company understands that it's feasible to spend and continuing pursuing the business value or the business outcome is the much that management has agreed to spend. All right. So you are a founder, 3 times founder. So when you go to the bank, you don't go there and say, oh, give me this money, but maybe next week I will do yes more, or maybe next week I will give you back. And then you need to go there, ask the money, they will give that, and you need to do your stuff with that. And the founder does not have only cost to look at, he needs to look to marketing people, yada yada yada. So they need to make sure, okay, this is the much IT people that I'm deserving for you to spend. And if you are able to keep within this limit, we're fine. Okay. And then just make things go. And if the end of the day you spend less because you find a miraculous way to optimize, even better, more money for you. All right. And for everybody. Okay. So everybody wins. Oh, so this is basically how I see this in action. All starts with the budgeting process agreed with all the personas, and through on the next cycle everybody tries to be within those limits, taking into consideration unit economics as the basis for looking to cost performance within the period.
Anderson, I wish my banking experience was as you described. I need to put you in touch with my banker. Uh, to your point, I, I, I I really respect your understanding of the engineer perspective, because if we think about it and take the role of engineer and how it evolved in the last 20 years, all the times we added more responsibilities to the engineer. In the past, they didn't even do QA. And then we added QA and security and reliability and performance. And now we're adding cost. And the responsibilities are just piling up. So I think that your approach of like understanding where they come from is actually the key to build a healthy relationship with engineers. And I would like to use this segue to ask you a question I ask almost every guest of ours. What do you think is the biggest mistake FinOps practitioners do when they engage with engineers?
In my opinion, if you have an organization where people think that FinOps is responsible for cost savings, every question will be wrong.
Got it.
And the reason for that is that, okay, although we're piling up responsibilities on top of engineers, at the end of the day, they are the ones that will be pushing the right buttons to make things happen. Someone may say, okay, what about the central role of FinOps in this? Like looking to negotiation in terms of rates with procurement, commitments that are centralized. Yes, great, we can do that. Obviously, we have a role in that play, but on the operational day-to-day activities, all right, they are the ones that should be doing this. And if and there are organizations that I've worked with that they hire FinOps people and they expect from the FinOps guy to come up with the savings. And because they don't have the means to do that, they need to be knocking on the door of the people and say, hey, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done this? Have you done that? And it's a bad place to be, honestly. I've been there and it's not funny. So the way that it should be is like FinOps being the catalyst, the one that will show the way that they set the boundaries so that the operation can run by itself, and the engineers feel encouraged enough to make the optimizations that they know that they can do. All right. So this is pretty much how I see it.
I totally understand. But my next question is, how do you make the cultural change? Meaning, how you turn them into owners of cost? How do you make them feel accountable for the cost? Do you have any tip for our listeners?
This is pretty much more psychology than FinOps itself. You need to really take a look at this. But, jokes aside, I think that accountability is something that needs to be steered by the leadership. So leadership needs to feel accountable, and then they cascade down this accountability. So the senior leadership demands from the direct reports demands from the product managers, and the product managers ensure that they make this middleman between uh, cost and backlog. Because to me, cost is another backlog item for the team. That's how it translates to engineers. It is a requirement that needs to be somehow put in prioritization among the other activities that will ensure reliability, security, and so on and so forth. All right. So as long as we have this requirement priorities in priority in this backlog, and the engineering team at the same time is looking to the budget that has been attributed to them, we will get this good environment, cultural environment to do this. As a FinOps lead, I have also seen very success. I've seen success when I implemented, for example, ways to promote best practices among among the corporation or the organization, someone that did something good, you then, promote that on the existing channels. Hey, look what this guy did. And then, oh, look at what this team did. And then you go there. Is this something that can be shared, or is this something that is too centered to what you're doing? No, this is something that everybody that has a virtual machine of this kind or this size could do. Okay, let's share with this with the community. And then you start seeing people talking to each other. It's so nice to see this happening. And then all of a sudden you see other people praising others because of that. So this is really great. So this community, establish a community, internal community, is something that I would recommend, but not before you have a very good cost analysis system in place that provides clear visibility of the cost of each one of their workloads, the applications, the cost per application, how much they are spending, and how much they are spending by, maybe, if you're either even better, if you're able to do that by feature or by an area or technology, it's even better. So you have these two things in your hand: community and a system that shows them the daily spend on their workloads. You have all the ingredients to create this good environment to have FinOps succeeding.
That's absolutely great. And Anderson, I would like to take you now to a different path and talk about your professional background and experience. So you were an in-house FinOps lead at Farfetch until not too long ago, and today you are a consultant. So I'm curious, how is it different being an in-house FinOps lead versus a consultant that comes from the outside and try to build or support FinOps from the outside?
Well, it will depend on how much you are assigned to this company. Let's say if you're just assigned for a couple of interactions, that will be something different from being in house for maybe 50% or 75% allocation. So the first one where we have a low allocation would be just a way of providing feedback or guidance or suggestion. Uh, Whereas by having a higher allocation, you will become responsible for some deliverables. For example, putting together, coordinating the budgeting process, or putting together some cost assumption documentation, or fine tuning your cost analysis tool. So it will depend on how much your allocation will allow you to do real deliverables, or just to be part of a meeting and provide suggestions and guidance to a specific topic.
And do you have a certain preference to be really embedded or more consulting from the side?
I love both. I love both. I love to. One of the things that I like to do is just solve problems. And to me, FinOps looks pretty much like a puzzle. You have all of the pieces, and you're trying to figure out how to put them together to make that an operation. Because my approach, Alan, is I don't like this approach of coming to a place, destroy everything, and let's start all over again on the way that I'm telling you. No, the way that I like to work is just like, okay, I will not destroy anything. Let's understand what you guys have, and with little tweaks or maybe reusing existing processes, maybe we can work together a little bit better. All right. So that's what I like about this consulting work. And you can be doing consulting with a high allocation, or with a low allocation. But you know that you did your job when you see a special spark on the eye of the person, when they do like, huh, that makes sense. And I internally say, yes, okay, we've got it. We've got there. All right. Yeah, I didn't get that right on the first sentence, but this is a kind of a construction that you do with the other guy. And they say, oh, I think we can do that. Oh, let's talk with that person. I think that they can help. And so we didn't destroy anything. We just put together existing things. Looks just pretty much like a puzzle, and that's what I like about this FinOps consulting work.
That's very nice. And I can tell you that I'm an entrepreneur and still I have the same more conservative approach to changes like you have. And I feel that, yes, sometimes you need to destroy and rebuild, but that's the rare cases. Most of the time it's about looking at what exists, finding the good stuff, identifying the bad stuff, removing the bad stuff, and improving things. And also, this is a lot more receptive and acceptable in people when you do it that way. So I definitely share the same perspective, even though I'm an entrepreneur and I'm supposed to, reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that the best thing as an entrepreneur is to find those opportunities of reusing existing things. You need, because you, as an entrepreneur, you are interested in the outcome and not too much on how you're going to get there. All right. Of course, if it's within the boundaries of the law, you don't. you and you know, you just want to, you want to see the result. You don't care who's going to be doing it, how that's going to be done. You know, of course, every time talking about a healthy environment. Okay, we have good people, we have good things, we have people that has the best of the intent. So you want to reuse that, so that you can get this outcome. Sometimes, as you said, we need just to destroy and start all over. But most of the time, my experience, others could be different, but my experience, you're gonna go faster if you just reuse.
And I totally agree. So, Anderson, so far we've talked very professionally. Let's move to talk a bit more on the personal level.
Ah,
So,
okay, cool.
and today you live in Braga, Portugal,
Yes, yes,
and originally you're from Brazil.
that's correct. That's correct.
So, how do you analyze the difference between Brazil and Portugal?
Oh man, it's there are so many things that are similar and other things that are very different. You know, I will start from the things that people thinks that is similar but it's different. With starting with the language, we both countries speak Portuguese, but there are some differences that sometimes make the entire that can change completely the way that we understand each other. So the way that we say some things, the way that we build the phrases. So sometimes we need to redo the conversation in order to understand each other. But something that looks amazing to me is the architecture, general architecture of the country. You like, you see many similarities, the way that the buildings are built, the way that the streets are put together, the sidewalks, um, the way that people behave. You feel lots of similarities. You know, sometimes you walk on the street and you feel, if you are distracted, you feel that you're in Brazil. All right, and maybe someone from Portugal will feel the same. uh, um, so this is, it's not the same thing as someone from Brazil traveling to German or to United States, that we will see, okay, we are in a different place. Portugal, depending on where you are, you feel that you're still on the same country. This is amazing to me.
Very interesting. You actually make me want to go to Portugal and Brazil. I've never been to neither, so
Okay, you
I,
should come. You should come.
I should. And I really love the architecture, so I definitely should do that. And Anderson, we talked about the difference of being like in-house practitioners to being a consultant from the professional point of view. I wonder if, from the personal point of view, you feel any difference.
Just because of the place that I'm working, I am fortunate to say that I am working 100% home office.
Mm.
This is great. I eventually go to the office for maybe 1 or 2 days every 1 or 2 months. All right. And I love this arrangement. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I never been to the office, 5 days in a row, um, and that's changed. I like to be on the office, but I also appreciate a lot the fact of being home in home office.
And I'm on the same page. It just allows me to be more with my kids and my family.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure you're on the same page on that as well.
Yeah, yeah. The flip side of that, something that I need to be very disciplined, because sometimes you see me sitting on the computer like 11 p.m., midnight, or, you know, completely not connected time. So that's something that I probably I need to be more disciplined to that.
Yes, and I'm on the same page here. And anything you like to do outside of work for fun?
Well, I like to be with my family. I still need to know more about Portugal. I'm traveling a little bit, doing small trips in the north where I'm located. I need to be more on the middle of Portugal, more on the seaside, because this is something that I want to do. The next is to travel through Europe, know a little bit more about the other countries. So this is one of the things that I do. Local when I'm not traveling, I like to be with my kids, to play with them. I like to watch series with my wife. So this is pretty much the things that I like to do.
Okay, that's very nice. And I hope for you that you'll complete entire Portugal. And I assume you already finished with Brazil. You've been all over there.
Oh my, I'm not even close.
Yeah, you know, Brazil is impossible, but I
Yeah.
wish you a lot of Brazil as well. And Anderson, I really enjoyed our conversation. If any of our listeners would like to reach out to you, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, they can find me at LinkedIn. Uh, and you can also visit my blog at zephyrglobe.pt/blog. I try to publish once per week. There are things that are my thoughts and learnings. And I'm thinking a lot, Alan, that FinOps community as a whole will experience a second wave, the wave of business value. As soon as the low hanging fruit finishes and everybody figure out FinOps, they will see that cost avoidance or cost savings will not happen too much. And then people needs to turn their eyes to business value and unit economics. And I'm trying to generate as much as possible material to pave this way. That I feel that this is my within the FinOps umbrella, this is my mission to make easier for people to figure out the business values of their value of their workloads, of their applications, so that the cloud investment can be directed by value and not just by monetary terms.
That's great. And I also personally highly recommend to follow Anderson and all of his content. I personally follow him on LinkedIn and other platforms. I'm sure you'll enjoy it and learn a lot. So, Anderson, thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure, Alan. It was good to be with you again. Hopefully, we'll be face to face soon in one of these conferences.
Absolutely. And I enjoyed every minute of it. I would also like to thank our audience. If you learned something today, you had a nice laugh, you had some fun, please tell one person about this podcast. Anderson, thank you again. This has been another very exciting and fascinating episode of FinOps in Action. See you next time. That wraps up another episode of FinOps in Action. Thank you for joining. For show notes and more, please visit finopsinaction.com. This show is brought to you by Point 5, empowering teams to optimize cloud costs with deep detection and remediation tools that drive action.